Am I the a-hole for telling my parents I am willing to sell them my forgiveness? My parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. They gave me the money they have saved up for my education, and they started charging me rent about $500 a month. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship, and I found a job in the city my university was in, so I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship, and my wages, I was able to scrape by. I rarely, if I ever, spoke with my parents, as I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they were not presented with the same option. They both lived at home all through university and even afterwards. I got $5,000, while my brother and sister got their school paid for. I am 34 now, with a decent job and a great girlfriend whom I will be marrying this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation. They called me to ask why they were not involved in the wedding. I responded that they hadn't really been part of my life in 16 years, and that I was being nice by inviting them. They said that they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, but that it was in the past, and that I should get over it. Against my fiancé's advice, I sent an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. And I said if they wanted to be a part of my life, they had to ante up. They said that they cannot afford that because they are in debt still from helping my siblings out. I just laughed at that and said I hoped that I would see them at the wedding and hung up. Now my family are all getting a hold of me to let me know how much I'm hurting my parents. The thing is that I don't want their money, and I don't want anything from them at all other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that, then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Maybe the itemized bill was a bit much, but I imagine it was cathartic for you. Your parents haven't been around in a decade and a half. They have a lot of nerve to ask to be involved. Not being involved in your wedding is just reaping what they sowed. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. Yeah, it is an a-hole move in a vacuum, but this is more about catharsis and appropriate response. I find this way is one of those really good ideas for dealing with crazy people. I need help with one detail. Is this the first time his family contacted him in 16 years? After the wedding invite? Because wow. I mean, it's not the a-hole all day long, even if sending a list is spiteful. But 1, it is an understandable spite. And 2, this is am I the a-hole, not am I spiteful. They said that they cannot afford that because they're in debt still from helping my siblings out. I'm sorry, what? Then why did they do it in the first place? Not the a-hole OP. Perhaps siblings can pay back now. If their perceived choice was going into debt to support their adult kids or lose almost all contact with them like OP, it's not surprising they picked debt. Of course, the reality is the choice was a bit less extreme. Let them live at home rent-free and pay what they could without going into debt. I mean, there's a middle ground that the parents haven't quite figured out. The lack of contact is also a choice that's not financial, because they could have at least checked on OP more, even if they cut him off financially. It sounds like they emotionally cut him out too. Even if OP was upset over the financial cut-off, they should have kept reaching out, because why he was upset was understandable. The way OP explains it, it seems he was the one to cut off contact. I was kind of busy, not they never called or they were kind of busy. Because he was busy fending for himself after his parents cut him off and gave him no help. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to rotate events between my parents? It's a tale as old as time. My parents stayed together for the kids. They got divorced 5 years ago, basically the second my youngest sibling left for college. I, 35 female, am married with kids of my own, and nothing much changed for us other than now seeing my parents separately for the most part. I have 4 kids, all in elementary or middle school. This means we have lots of stuff going on, from school plays to sports matches to recitals. My parents are active and involved grandparents, and they both try to come to as many of these things as possible. We had, of course, about 2 years where these things were not really happening so much, but now we're finally back to a normal schedule, and these types of things are back on. For some reason, my parents' divorce proceedings have dragged on for longer than they should have, and the financial stuff is still being hashed out. Unfortunately, it has gone from relatively civil to hostile. I'm not taking sides. I love both my parents, as do my kids, and their divorce is not my business. But lately, My dad has been saying he doesn't want to go to places where my mom is going to be and has asked if he can rotate the grandchild events with her. I understand him not wanting to interact with her. That's fine. But he can easily attend these things without having to. He can sit on the other side of the bleachers or auditorium and never even see her. My mom is perfectly content to do just that and doesn't want to have to miss anything. This is all Dad. I told him there's really no reason he can't go to, say, a school play and just sit as far away from Mom as possible. She doesn't want to talk to him either, and neither are the type to ever make a scene. So no, I'm not going to make a rotation. They are both invited to all of these things, and Dad is free to go or not. His choice. Needless to say, Dad is not pleased. Mom thinks it's perfectly fair, but she's obviously biased. Husband agrees with me. One brother agrees with me, but that's because he's likely proposing soon and is worried about Dad being like this for all the wedding-related events. My other siblings are younger and don't really have that sort of thing on their minds and are saying I'm being unfair to Dad. But maybe they have a point? Am I the a-hole for how I'm handling this? Not the a-hole. Your parents, particularly your dad, need to do better for their grandkids if they want to be involved in your life. It sounds like you are being incredibly respectful of the divorce, not taking sides, etc. Rotating events also creates huge logistical problems. You can't rotate one-off events like graduations, etc. All that's going to end up happening if you do is you create a whole new set of problems where someone complains that grandparent A got to go to XYZ, and they were way more important than the events grandparent B got invited to. Or at Christmas, grandparent A has somewhere else they can go, but it's their turn, even though it might be better to have grandparent B. Not to mention that a parent with a million kid activities to coordinate doesn't need to worry about even more logistics for each event, big or small, for no good reason. Not the a-hole. Your dad's acting like a petulant child. And your younger sibs are wrong. If granddad doesn't want to see grandma, then granddad better question the love for his grandkids. He's there for the kids. If he can't look at that way, then it's a personal problem. Your younger sibs don't see it this way because they don't have kids yet. It's weird, but once you have kids, you realize that you do a lot of things for your children and grandchildren. And a mature person would see that sometimes compromises have to be made, and you may not like it, but you want to be there to support them. Definitely true about having to think about kids. Though my brother, who's planning to propose soon, doesn't have kids, but is thinking like me, because he doesn't want to be in a position of having to choose which parents attends his engagement party and wedding. And he wants kids, so I bet he's thinking about what will be when he does have them. I think the situation would be different if it was an abusive marriage. If this is all just pettiness or resentment, then it's on your dad to decide what's more important, being an active father and grandparent, or trying to punish your mom by having her barred from family events. Whether he views it as his punishment or not, that's what it is. Give it time. Don't uninvite anyone and he should come around. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she needs to pay for childcare or I'm not going to her wedding? My female 25 sister's wedding, female 28, is in a couple months. She recently sent out invitations. I was invited as a regular guest, not a bridesmaid or maid of honor, since we live a state apart. And obviously, there's a certain level of involvement and time that goes into being part of a bridal party, which I understand. I want to be there for my sister, and obviously I'd like to see her get married. But the problem is, I'm a single mom. My son is 6, and when he's not at school, I need to be home watching him. So being out for hours at a time isn't really in the cards for me right now. My sister's wedding is child-free too. Since it's taking place in her state, I'd need to commute. And I'd probably have to be gone from my house for 2 full days. I can't have family watch my son since they'll all be at the wedding. And I don't really have friends who will babysit for 2 days. I contacted my sister and asked if she'd be willing to let my son come to the wedding with me and explained he couldn't be left alone so young and that I didn't have anyone to watch him. She responded by telling me her no children policy was strict and she wouldn't make exceptions. I explained my situation again and said I need some form of childcare or to bring him with me. I then asked her if she could pay me to hire a nanny or babysitter to watch him. She got offended and said children and weddings are both parts of life and I need to just figure it out. It's my kid, my problem. Which sure, that's true. but also her wedding and her making it a problem by not allowing me to bring my kid. I told her she could either pay for my childcare or I wouldn't be going to her wedding, which all she did was call me ridiculous and entitled. She said she shouldn't have to pay for my child, and that part of being an adult is knowing how to take care of that kind of thing. I think that's ridiculous. Money is tight. Childcare is expensive. I can't magically afford for someone to watch my 6-year-old, and most people would just let me bring him to the wedding. My sister says she's definitely not paying for childcare, and I guess you're not going to the wedding then. And now, my whole family is mad at me for not being there for my sister. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I'm not trying to force my sister to pay for anything, and it's totally fine if I can't come. She accepts that, and I just don't go. It only became a problem when my entire family came after me for not going to the wedding. I'm not mad at my sister for not paying. I'm mad at her for turning the family against me and saying I don't want to come to the wedding, and complaining about me behind my back to my parents. She complained about me not going to the wedding as if I was purposely avoiding it. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. I get where you're coming from, but you went about this all wrong. I'm sorry, but it's not within my budget to travel so far. I'd also arranged to pay for childcare when I get there. I said my best. Full stop. Don't ask for handouts from a stressed out bride. Is that what people do? Good Lord. If she's gracious, she or the family will offer a solution. But you don't ask for that. That's where the entitlement came from. In the end, the kid is your responsibility, no one else's. Everyone sucks here. Opie has no right to demand childcare. It's her child and her responsibility, not her sister's. But her sister also has no right to be angry at her sister for not coming. She can choose to have a child-free wedding, but she cannot demand that people with children attend. It doesn't sound like the sister is upset if Opie doesn't attend. She was only upset at Opie's demand that she pay. It does seem that she sent her flying monkeys to shame her sister for not showing up. She also seemed comfortable telling her sister how to parent. Everyone sucks here for different reasons. You're the a-hole. It's no one else's responsibility to pay for your childcare. Completely unreasonable ask. Asking a bride to stay away, your sister of all people, to pay for childcare for a night or two so you can attend their special event is not unreasonable at all between sisters? Like, hey sis, I can't afford this thing. Do you really want me there? If so, I have to ask, can you pay for the childcare so I can attend? Otherwise, I may just have to bow out. If the conversation went like this and Opie's sister reacted with her stress and psycho in the moment, it might be fine. But Opie wasn't asking unreasonable things. This is across state lines. A travel wedding and a sister who's not even a part of the wedding party. It didn't have to be a screaming match. It could have been, oh no sis, I can't pay for that with all the wedding expenses. I'm so sorry you can't come. Like, what planet are we living on that is abnormal to ask a sister for help in a situation they're being put in by their sister? What the heck? Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to cut my hair for my sister's wedding? I, 23 female, have a long golden hair that is down to my mid-thigh. I'm 5'4", and I've been growing it out for a really long time. I had waist-long golden blonde hair at 14, and I was friends with this one girl who would often tell me how damaged and frizzy it was, and how it would look so much nicer if I cut it short. It was then brown as I had cut it, and I felt that it looked plain and not healthier. Having long or frizzy hair doesn't automatically mean it's damaged. I later learned that she was jealous and sabotaging me, and decided I'd never listen to hair advice again. Now, my sister, 25 female, is getting married. We are all very excited. Last week, she pulled me aside and said my hair is too long. It looks bad, and she doesn't want it in her wedding photos. I thought it was really rude, but I told her I'd wear it up. She said it's too long to wear up, and even when I wear it up, it looks too big for my head and body. I told her that's fine, I won't be in the photos. She told me I'm bound to be in the photos if I'm there, so I told her I won't go as I'm not cutting my hair. My family are not only agreeing with her saying it's her big day, but also saying other things like I won't be able to get a job, I look scruffy, I'm getting old to have hair that long and demanding I cut it. I want to be clear, my hair is no longer frizzy. I used good shampoo for wavy hair so it's long and wavy. It's also thick so it isn't thinning. It's very shiny and I take good care of it and get trimmed so there's no split ends. I get a lot of compliments towards my hair, and I've never had any trouble with working, and I see no reason to cut it other than the wedding, which I'm not willing to do. I suspect my sister is jealous and doesn't want my hair to take away her attention, but of course, she can't outright say that. Even if your hair is frizzy, they have no right to even request, let alone demand such a thing. Not a-hole. Exactly. I have a curly hair and sometimes it is frizzy, but other people just have to deal with it when that happens. Don't cut your hair for anyone else but yourself. If you want to do it, then it's fine to cut it. If you don't, then you shouldn't. You couldn't ask your sister to dye her hair blonde/brown/black/pink/golden because that would look better with her dress on her wedding day. So why should she be the one telling others to change anything about their appearances? She either wants you there or she doesn't. Same. 3A/3B hair, and I'm sick of people having an issue and making comments on days it's frizzy. Not the a-hole. This obsession some brides have over their wedding photos is really unhealthy and bizarre to me. You just have natural long hair. She should get over it. The irony is that most of the time the photos are forgotten about after the first couple of years. I had a bridesmaid that decided her super pale skin needed a spray tan 24 hours before the wedding. She also went nuclear blonde and neon green nail polish with the deep purple bridesmaid dresses. There was nothing I could do on the day of, so I rolled with it. But I do make a point of reminding her of how she looked, and is now mortified by it, because the goal was as much attention as possible. Keep your hair, the pictures won't matter down the road. Not a-hole. I'm very sorry for this misfortune, but the description of your bridesmaid had me rolling. Oh, I have one photo up from my wedding 20 plus years ago. I still giggle whenever I look at it. She did it to herself. Beautiful dress, Cheeto skin, nuclear blonde hair, and that nail polish. She thought she looked good, but everyone else was wondering what was up with the bridesmaid who missed the look. Since I wanted a marriage more than I wanted a wedding, I wasn't thrilled, but the idea of freaking out on her would have helped anyone on the day of.